Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for another game of the Rugby World Cup. This one, Australia taking on Georgia. And what is the first game of an exciting pool alongside the Fijians, the Portuguese, as well as the Welsh. This one is wide open. Australia come into this game as slight favourites, but we know how physical that the four-pack of the Georgians can be. We saw it in that first half when they did play up against Scotland, and I believe we will see it once again in this game up against the Aussies. Now, there's quite a few changes in this Australian side compared to what we saw throughout the Rugby Championship. The words on Eddie Jones' mind at the moment is progression and improvement, and that is something that he feels that he has seen from the Australians throughout the last little while, throughout their last few games, and now we get to see whether or not that is going to be the case. But they are on a 5-match losing streak, and with the side that they have selected here, they certainly do not want to make it 6. It's Angus Bell, Dave Parecki, and Taniela Tupou, the Tongan Thor, at number 3 for this game. Huge front row, Angus Bell and Tupou certainly bringing that size. But then up against Georgia, you do need that size. You need that power up front. And that is why the Aussies have gone with that. Richie Arnold at number 4 with Will Skelton, the captain, at number 5. Tom Hooper at 6. Fraser McRide at number 7. Very good at getting the turnovers and the breakdown. And Rob Bellatini coming off the back of the scrum as the big number 8. Now, you would have heard me say the word big quite a few times. Like I mentioned, Georgia, they're known for their forwards. Huge amount of depth in that department. Australia, they got to muscle up if they want any chance. And this opening fixture, Tate McDermott and Carter Gordon, the young combination, at 9 and 10, opting to not go with Quade Cooper for this Rugby World Cup competition. Samu Karevi and Jordan Bataya as the midfield combination. Sadly, there will be no Len Ikitau throughout this Rugby World Cup. That is due to his injury he sustained in one of the warm-up games. Marika Koromberi, the gutsy number 11. Mark Ngawanganetawasi out on the other wing. A bit of an X-factor player for the Australians that they will be hoping will have a tremendous debut Rugby World Cup. And then Ben Donaldson to slot in at 15. Some were wondering if it would be Callaway, but instead Donaldson, the Waratahs representative, will take their last spot. Looking through at the chat very quickly, then we will look at this Georgian side. Georgia by 4, says Craig. Okay, we back, says Gary. Come on, Australia, says AJS. And I have it as a draw because I don't know what Australia is going to bring to the table, says Mo. And Eddie Jones, he sounds confident about this game. He feels that they've done all the preparation right that they needed to. They've built up the chemistry. They've got a game plan. The question is whether or not when you get that first shot to the ribcage from one of those big Georgian forwards, whether that game plan completely goes out the window or not. Georgia going to win first upset, says Glenn Webster. If the Aussies lose this one, Skelton won't be captain next week, says Mo. Although the problem that they've got at the moment is, other than Skelton, I guess you could at a stretch say maybe Tate McDermott would take the captaincy over. But yeah, the Aussies, they are certainly missing Michael Hooper. He is currently in the stand commentary booth. He was talking about it just before the game. Hit the like button. Show love and support, says bystand, and Australia will win this. Georgia will come on to beat England later on tonight, or will continue on to beat England later on tonight, right after Argentina have beaten England. Then Georgia will beat them again, says Powerbot. I'm very confused about that fixture list. It is not quite the same as the one that I've got, but this is the Georgian starting lineup. Now, this is the same boat as I was in for the Romanians. We haven't covered a huge amount of Georgian rugby in the past, so I will struggle a little bit with some of the pronunciations of these players. Ninashvili at number 15, though I've heard a lot about him over the last few weeks. One to certainly watch out for. Matkava at number 10, and also Lobs Hansi at number 9. That will slowly roll off the tongue a little bit better, but this 4-back is what we're looking at. They've got some brilliant forwards to come off the bench also for the Georgians. Physicality, the word of the day, and that is where Aussie have to try and match this Georgian lineup, because if they can do so, we saw Scotland, they were 6-0 or so in their game up against the Georgians, but eventually the floodgates started opening. Scotland started scoring points, and that can be seen in the recent fixtures played by the Georgians. As you can see, 33 points to 6. They were victorious, Scotland. The game before that, Georgia getting themselves to win over the USA, 22 points to 7, and then 56 points to 6, the win for Georgia over Romania. That was their first Rugby World Cup warm-up game. Now, we have got the list of the Rugby Championship fixtures for the Australians. Of course, they also did suffer a defeat to France most recently in their Rugby World Cup warm-up games. But as you can see, throughout this rugby championship competition, there were times where Aussie was struggling and there were times when they were right in it. And if they can have a performance similar to those ones here and here, I think that this game could go relatively well for the Australians. But of course, we will have to wait and see. Aussie will win, hopefully. Good game, says Ron. And also we have got the SU at halftime, says Mo, and Australia is the youngest team in the World Cup, says Morne Lagrange. They certainly are. Eddie Jones opting to go with a side that he believes can not just do well in this World Cup, but he feels will be able to do well in 2027's World Cup. Also, Australia will win, but Georgia are capable of making it difficult. Enjoy the game, everyone. Thanks for the great commentary, Hamish. Putting the like on before I forget, says Brian. And there as well, but we have currently got a couple ads before the game gets underway. Ladies and gentlemen, do let me know your score predictions for this fixture between the Australians and the Georgians. I believe we are going to see Georgia relatively strong early on, maybe for the first 15 minutes or so. Their defence is normally pretty solid, but I think that it's going to be after Australia start to try a few unorthodox plays that they start to find their momentum. Now, it's risky to do up against this Georgian side. I mentioned about Ninishvili at the back. He's got some absolutely beautiful highlight tries under his belt. Georgia have picked 15 tight head props, says Bauerbite there, and Australia 30, Georgia 12. And also we have got that they're really butchering everyone's national anthems. Squire thing isn't working, says Kian, and Georgia 14-1. Too good to pass up, bro, says Michael. And yeah, that's the thing with Australia being on a 5-match losing streak. We've got to remember that in terms of the way that the betting odds sit. Maybe it is worth a shot for the Georgians in this one. And Georgia to win by 6 is my prediction, says Kian. But do let me know also, ladies and gentlemen, who do you think will be the first player to get themselves a try in this game? I am thinking the Aussie backs. I'm not sure which one, either Marika Koromberi, maybe Samu Karevi in the midfield. But I will go Mark Nawanga-Netawasi. I feel like he is just that little bit of an unknown. We've seen him for the Waratahs doing very well. We've also seen him play a little bit of sevens in the past for the Aussies. That is coming back in November, but he's just got that little bit of X factor, like I mentioned earlier on, that could help the Aussies over the try line. Australia 39, Georgia 17 is Wise One's prediction, but this will be match 3 in a row for us on the channel. We have still got one just around the corner. That is the matchup taking place between Argentina and the English. But for now, we've got an exciting game just around the corner with Luke Pearce in charge, James Dolman, Craig Evans, and Brian McNeese as the 3 other assistant referees and touch judges. The Aussies will be kicking off from left to right, and Pool C now underway for the Rugby World Cup. Kicked off relatively long, nicely cleaned up by the Georgian number 8, Gogadsi. Rolling this one back. Georgia inside of their 22. They will look to be relatively safe early on, not going for anything too risky, just playing that territory game. It looks like Ben Donaldson will do the same for the Australians, kicking it straight down the middle of the field. Back there covering was Ninishvili. And he will look to put this ball downfield into touch, but hasn't been able to find it. Instead, now Carter Gordon, one of the youngest fly halves in the competition. He has kicked it deep. And Georgia once again will return fire. I feel like we are going to see a bit of a force-back game. And it's interesting that Georgia aren't actually looking to kick that one into touch. Instead, opting to go down the middle of the field, hoping that Australia will be the side that make the mistake. But brilliant kick from Mark Nawanga-Netawasi. Straight away, that shut that down because Australia get themselves to the 50-22. Yes, so much says John. And Georgia don't have the backs. Carter Gordon to score first, says Powerbite. And Georgia is a gorgeous country, by the way. Definitely recommend it for a holiday. You're 40 seconds ahead of my feed, says Brian. And Hamish, you kicked us out of the Southern Hemisphere rugby. Your rugby game has suffered, says Brian. And there, I personally did not do anything. I still cover all the South African games on the channel anyway. But it'll be interesting to see how the All Blacks do go in their next game. I know that that is what you're referring to. You're probably saying that for the Wallabies as well. Currently only 5 metres out from the line. And the Aussies, a decent chance for Rob Valentina to make those couple extra metres, tackled well by the Georgian lock. We know that Georgia will be physical throughout the first stages of this match. Big Will Skelton, he knows a thing or two about the physicality. Also going out to this left-hand side. Jordan Bataya spins and scores. Aussies score the quickest try almost of the Rugby World Cup. I think Mark Talias may have been just that little bit quicker, but already Australia getting over the try line. They didn't look like they were struggling for that first one. And Eddie doesn't have a win yet. Might see the first upset today. Says Jaco Vandenberg and all the best green and gold says a night. And Australia scored 392 runs against South Africa in the second ODI. And also we have got there and the chat as well. Will Skelton was the prediction. And that's a great 50-22. I only saw it now. And that's the thing. Georgia did decide to go for those kicks straight down the middle of the field rather than opting for touch. And I believe that allowed Australia too much time to be able to play or bring that kick into play. And Mark Ngawanganitawasi absolutely nailing it, getting the Australians on the front foot, and then great spin from Jordan Petaia to get that ball down. Scores the first try of the match for the Australians. How's it, Hamish? Still in Bulgaria. Thanks for the great commentary, says David. Yeah, it is hugely appreciated you tuning in. We have still got England versus Argentina just a little bit later on tonight. Now, Ben Donaldson, he will be in charge of the kicking tee tonight. I know that it was talked about that Carter Gordon more than likely would end up with the nod. In this case, Donaldson, he will be the man with the boot today. They're talking about the fact there's no breeze. There's certainly plenty of heat around. Donaldson hit it away to the left-hand side. Unsuccessful conversion attempt, so now the score sits 5-0 after only 3.5 minutes. A dream start to the match for the Australians, although we have seen them score tries quickly in the past, and then they have gone on to lose those games. So they need to make sure that they keep on applying the pressure, get themselves as much of a lead as they possibly can. Argentina can definitely beat England, says John. Yeah, that game's going to be an absolutely awesome one. It's just around the corner. 22 metres out, big fin from Angus Bell. Tackled nicely by, I believe it was Jalagonia, I believe it is. A 6 charge down kick. And now Georgia, that was a hard landing on the back of the head for the halfback, but the penalty does go the way of Georgia. Now, we do know that they like 3-pointers early on in the game. We saw that in the one up against Scotland, but the problem that Georgia will have is I don't believe they will win this game just by taking the 3 points. They will need a few tries alongside it. Yes, Georgia, beautiful country to visit, says Jacqueline. Georgia, they are going to be going for the 3 points. It is Luka Matkava who will be going for this kick. It's well taken. The Georgian 9 just smacks his head hard on the ground. Tomorrow is the big one. South Africa versus Scotland, says John. And yeah, also Fiji versus Wales taking place tomorrow night. That will be another very intriguing fixture and a great way to close out this round of the Rugby World Cup. I am thoroughly looking forward to those two. This is Granny Goldberg, a huge rugby supporter, keeping my grey cells alive. With your commentary, come on Aussies, win this game. Says B. Goldberg, the kick is good from Matkava, and that will now make the score 5 points to 3, still in favour of the Aussies. But Carter Gordon's kick was charged down by Lobshandze. And also we have got there. I hope they do well today. I like Australia, but it would be crazy to see Georgia pull off a shock win, says Eldon there. It's going to be kicked off long by Ben Donaldson, nicely taken inside of the 22 by, I believe it would have been Moribadze. Just moving that little bit further forward. For Georgia, I believe they are still inside of the 22, so oh no, they've said taken in, so they are not able to find touch with this kick, and that is actually what got them into trouble last time when they were kicking it down the field without intentions of finding touch. That has gone out on the full, so they will go right back to the 22. And Australia once again in a good position. Ireland won their first match in the Rugby World Cup 2023, says Patrick Brady. They did indeed, and they did win it comfortably in their match up against the Romanians. Dave Barecki now with the throw. Somewhere that some people would say Australia do lack a little bit of consistency would have to be that Australian lineout, although they haven't had to go for that lineout this time. Georgia closing the gap. Shishvili, the man who was penalised for that. Quick tap taken by Angus Bell. And now it's a knock on from the Wallabies, and we will get to see the first scrum of the contest now. Angus Bell, he pinned the ears back. Just got the ball knocked out of his hand. Mamukashvili, man who put in the big hit around the ribs of Angus Bell. And I talked about that before the match got underway. It's all well and good having a plan to be physical with this Georgian side, but once they get a couple big hits into you, that normally changes the tactic. I do see that Australia have about a 60 kg advantage when it comes to the scrum free. Why aren't you on bed? Says Clifford. Well, because the Rugby World Cup is here. We have waited over 1,000 days to be able to cover these games, so we certainly didn't want to be resting during any of them. We're running off 2 hours of sleep from the last about 28 hours of being awake. But there's been some exciting rugby taking place, that is for sure. Now, nice run forward from Georgia's number 9. His name still hits me in the face every time I try and say it. Lobs Hanze. Lob Hanidze. Lob Hanidze, I think it is. And Georgia 11th in the World Rugby Rankings. Says it was a Sharazam that's going to be charged down by Will Skelton, but they did have a man back there covering just in case that happened. It is going to be the youngster number 15, Ninashvili. Moving out towards the 22 now for Georgia. Present performance, Amy says Wise one. And come on, Georgia, says RJJ. Marika Korombedi taking it on the halfway line now for the Australians as we're 8 minutes in. Missed tackle there from the Georgians, which means Simon Karevi is ready for the pass. Finds the flick on the outside to Jordan Pataya. At the moment, he has got 1 try on the board. We'll be looking for at least a double here. The leading try scorer tally is quite high at the moment throughout the competition. Johnny Sexton on 2. Tyke Byrne on 2. There's 2 for Mark Talia. 2 for Bundy Arki, and then there's 1 other Irishman, Peter O'Mani, who got the other 2. We have got a donation from Akaris as well. Thank you very much, mate. Usually appreciated. Pass on the outside to Wangananawidawasi. Sorry, I got excited. Nawanganidawasi. And that will be the second try of the match for the Australians. They have started like a house on fire here, ladies and gents, and they are looking to continue building up their momentum. And every point is crucial in Pool C. Alongside Fiji, Wales and Portugal, you want to be getting as many points early on as possible. Great to see 30,000 subscribers. Well done and well deserved. Says Akaris. Thank you very much, mate. Hugely appreciated. But like I said on that last stream, without you guys, like, these live streams just wouldn't be the same. I can't imagine doing the commentary without having the input from all of you in the chat. It just wouldn't feel the same. Good stuff, Australia. Good stuff, says Eldon. And for tomorrow's game, you must have some South African swear words. I know a couple of them, so I'll be able to recognise them in the chat when people are swearing at me. The old Eddie Jones format strikes again and creates on 30k aim, which says Eldon. Thank you very much. And if Georgia wins this game, I don't think Eddie Jones will ever sleep tonight. Says Morne Lagrange. Well, from here, I think Aussie would be very disappointed with the start that they've had a try already, says Brick Johnson. Now make it 2 tries for the Australians. Let's go Australia, says AJS. And Australia, I can't believe I'm both Aussie and Kiwi and might be taking double losses, says Chronic. Ben Donaldson, though, got plenty of height on that kick, but it has gone over the posts, and that now makes the score 12 points to 3 after the first 10 minutes. Australia exactly where they wanted to be at this point of the match. We have got there, South Africa, bro, says Brian. And there as well. Yeah, their game up against Scotland is going to be an absolutely awesome one. Taking place at 3:35 a.m. New Zealand time tomorrow night. We will be starting nice and early, doing a bit of a preview for that game, though, before it does take base. Cotton Betty finds the offload away to Tate McDermott, who once again was almost able to go through the line. It was a last-ditch tackle made by Jalagonia. Now back into the pocket, Carter Gordon. Good kick downfield. Down to the 22 of Georgia now. I believe it is going to be the number 10 here. Matkava finds his offload away to Ninashvili, who has to run backwards before going forwards. Now kicks it in behind to Carter Gordon. Go for the boot of his own. He has got a very big boot. This youngster does play for the Melbourne Rebels in Super Rugby Pacific. That kick is going to go just a little bit too far. The Georgians decide against going for the touchline as of yet. They're actually going to run it out from their own 22. Brilliant bit of play here from Georgia. And once again, it is Matkava being involved in the play. Now about 40 metres out from their own line here, Georgia. A fast play from Australia, says Bowbite. Bit of a counter-ruck there from the Wallabies as well. Georgia able to keep the ball in their hands and now looking for that box kick once more. Chasing after this one, Modi Badze does try and cut off Nawanganidawasi. Was eventually dragged down by the Georgian hooker. Now Bell. For Australia, it's all about keeping possession here early on in the game. We have got their fast play from Australia, and who scored the second try. Second try was scored by Mark Ngawanganitawasi for the Aussies, and Jordan Pataya was able to get the first. Another kick high from Tate McDermott. Nicely taken by the number 15, Ninashvili, who did put the fin right into the face of Ngawanganitawasi. And how's it made after the Rugby World Cup? You have to visit South Africa so you can take part in the Springboks victory parade, says Jose. And there as well, it's going to be the penalty this time to the Australians, leaving their feet, Georgia, in the breakdown. We have got there. I don't need to watch the game with your commentary. Thank you for your channel. Says Edward, thank you very much, mate. I do apologise for some of my Georgian name pronunciation. I will say I'm a bit rough in their names, unfortunately, but yeah, we've got plenty more coming up in the near future. We have got the 3 games taking place tomorrow between Japan and Chile, Scotland versus South Africa, as well as Fiji versus Wales, and also the game a bit later on tonight, taking part Argentina, and also England, New Zealand versus South Africa quarterfinal pending, says John. And Georgia has come to play, says Robert Wood there in the chat as well. Yeah, I can't see an upset happening now. Australia playing some nice rugby. Australia is playing footy, says AJ. Yes, and it's actually what Sonny Bill Williams said before the game. He said they've just got to go out there, play some decent footy. They've got the plans. They know what they need to do. They've seen the improvement from each of their performances. Now Ben Donaldson, with this penalty, will look to kick this one from 46 metres out to add a few more points onto the board for the Australians. It's a relatively tough kick, though. I would have liked to see Aussie go for the corner, put that little bit more pressure on, but this will help extend their lead to 12 points if it is a successful conversion. Ben Donaldson, once again, down the middle, so that makes the score now 15 points to 3 in favour of Australia. And Georgia already find themselves down by 12, and that is quite concerning, being that we are only just starting this matchup. Normally it is Georgia that goes slightly worse later in a game, whereas if they're in the start of this match and they are struggling, oh yeah, Ninashvili putting the fingers up the nose of Ngawanganitawasi when he did give him that fin. And greetings from Cape Town, says Buffalo, welcome in. Australia needs a good win to gain confidence looking forward, says Jose. And go the Aussie, says Stewart in there. Now kick deep, Marika Kurumbeti, well taken by him. Tackled by Tabutzadi. Tate McDermott rolling it back. Looking to use Carter Gordon in the pocket, who we have already established. He's got a relatively long boot. Doesn't quite get his angle right that time though, so Georgia will find themselves about 25 metres out from the Australian line. Used to play alongside Georgia's assistant coach. Seems a weird guy now. Says power bite, and Argentina will crush England, I assume that is, from Wise One. So far we've seen 174 metres made by the Australians, 60 made by Georgia. Georgian names is very difficult to pronounce, says Mornay. Yeah, they're very unique, I have to say. Like, normally with some of the sides that we have commentated in the past, there's a bit of a similarity. The likes of Namibia, similar to the South African names. Big boot downfield from Tate McDermott, decides to take it quickly, sees the opportunity, massive kick. And that will almost go into touch. Just back there, though, is Ninashvili to be able to cover. And once again, kicking it back inwards. Now, that is what actually hurt the Georgians last time, allowing the Aussies to be able to run the ball back. Now it's going to be Ngawanganitawasi going for that low driving kick. It's bounced over the top of the Georgian number 10, and he has forced it dead. He didn't want to take the risk. So well done by Matkava. And it will be now the goal line dropout. I need to go by Red Bulls at halftime. Need to see Australia win. Been a while, says Chronic, and go the boys, says Susan. Yeah, so far 2 tries for Australia. I mentioned about that bonus point. They will need 4 tries to be able to walk away from this game with that bonus point intact, and that would put them at the top of Pool C, more than likely at the end of the round. I feel like Fiji versus Wales will be a relatively close game either way that it does go. Big run from Valetini. Good defence from Ivanishvili. Now Pareki hits the ball up. Tate McDermott cross to Carter Gordon. Big run from Bell. Taken down round his ankles by Sirikadze. Richie Arnold trying to drive hard at those forwards. You never really make a huge amount of metres though when running straight at Georgia. Carter Gordon going for the up and under out for Ngawanganitawasi. He's going to be under pressure. He's taken it beautifully. Finds the offload away to Valetini Pataya. Win himself and blew the opportunity. He got selfish, unfortunately, for the Aussies. Go Australia, says Viniani. It's been taken back by Georgia, so it will still be a 5-metre scrum. But Pataya saw the white line and thought he was going over, rather than looking at the Wanganitawasi, who I believe would have almost had a clean run all the way to the try line. But great work from the Wanganitawasi, back up to his feet. Would have been worth the chance of giving it to Wanganitawasi. There was a bit of pressure on there. Great commentary as always, and very much appreciated. Much love and blessings. Rugby fam, says Joel, right back at you, mate. It is absolutely awesome to have you here for this Rugby World Cup. We've got plenty of matches just around the corner. We're up to match 4 that we have covered on the channel at the moment, which means there's only 48 more matches to go of the Rugby World Cup, which sounds really weird because that doesn't sound like a lot. But then when I think about it, it is. There's going to be no vocal cords left at the end of this Rugby World Cup. We're going to have to take like 2 weeks off for rest and recovery. Dave McDermott, though, 5 metres out from the line. Nicely gone in. Get some rest, says Brick. The weekdays is what that's for. The rest days, that's going to be another penalty. Going the way of Australia this time, says Luke Pearce. An amazing game from Oz, says Powerbite 92. And Australia will get the bonus point before half-time, I reckon, says Brian. And also Go Australia, says Viniana. Akaris has said, as you might have guessed, I am English. Whilst everyone seems to treat us with disdain, I don't care, and I'm proud we managed to codify the game that is enjoyed by so many. And also we have got, I believe, that will be our first Georgian in the chat. Welcome in. Hope you are doing very well. This is when I find out that that translates to like, you suck or something like that. At 18 minutes in, Taniela Tupou, Tong and Thor going head-to-head with Abeladze on the left-hand side of the scrum. And then Papidze, I believe, is on the other side going head-to-head with Angus Bell. There's a Mexican wave going around the ground. Georgian in the chat says Powerbite. And should there be the silliest haircut award in the Rugby World Cup? I mean, I thought Super Rugby Pacific were doing that a while ago. Or with Super Rugby Aotearoa, everyone was going with the randomest cuts that they could come up with. Samu Karevi, flat run there. Now to the left-hand side. Tate McDermott goes off to Rob Valentini once again. The Georgians have been caught offside, which now means that Australia are in the perfect position to be able to go over the line. My voice just went. And he's going to be held up, I believe. Taniela Tupou. They may want to check this just to make sure. And I left the Ireland versus Romania stream early. Came back to see the result and just well, but predictable. Says Mr. Skits. And also we have got there Oz will win. But I support Georgia, was born there. Says Tatiana. And don't worry, Akaris, I will be supporting England from South Africa right now. Aussies must win. And total World Cup matches is 48. 4 out of 48, says Mornay Lagrange. Is there only 48? Is there even less than 50? So we've got the 40 group stage matches. You got your 4 quarterfinals. Oh yeah, 2 7. That's sad now. There's less than 50 remaining. And good morning, Irish, says Daniel. Welcome in, mate. Hope you are doing very well. Currently 4:20 a.m. here in New Zealand. And Trishran says, Henny, there looks like Australia are once again opting to go for the 3 points. Like they've said, Tate McDermott, as the vice-captain, might have been helping make the decision alongside Will Skelton. Okay, they're about to have a water break after this kick from Ben Donaldson. Australia could go into this water break with a 15-point lead, which would be extremely handy up against a Jordan side that I have mentioned have struggled a little bit when it comes to scoring tries. They did do very nicely in their game up against Romania, though, getting themselves 56 points. That was due to being more aggressive, which I believe is what they will need in the second half of this one. But Donaldson gets another one over. Oh, yeah, I've got there any grief from South Africans, just say that. I know what John said earlier on, so I can't say that out loud, but yep, drinks break here. Already 20 minutes gone in this game. It is flying by. So we will also have a drink, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't already, be sure to get yourself a nice beverage. So plenty more rugby action coming up later on. I've got there. Has anyone noticed very little TMO interference in the World Cup so far? It's refreshing to see. I have. I think the perfect example of that was New Zealand versus France at times, that we hardly see the TMO unless they're called upon, which is better than constantly having the TMO going, hey, I think you should look at this, 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 and this. Please, South Africans don't use bad language in Afrikaans. Hold your tongue, be respectful. From South Africa, says B. Goldberg. But Georgia, they'll feel like they didn't have the best first 20 minutes there. They haven't really been able to get out of their own half, and when they have been able to, they have still been under immense pressure from the Australians. Georgian message translates as cheers, cheers, says Franz Smith. Oh, well, that's quite nice. I was worried it was going to be something bad, to be honest, but at the moment, sitting 18 points to 3 in favour of the Australians. They are just showing that starting XP. Nwanganitawasi looking strong throughout the early stages, not just being able to score himself a try, but also doing well under the high ball. And Jordan Bataille, the other try scorer for the Australians. Bill Goldberg, WWE, says John there. Shirakadze, he'll be wanting a bit more from his forward pack, I would say, which sounds harsh because we've hardly seen the back line, but the forwards, if they can get a couple ruck turnovers, it may help Georgia find that little bit more momentum. Brilliantly taken by Richie Arnold, had a bit of a fumble with the ball, but was able to reach out, grab it once more. Now going off to the right-hand side, good run from Will Skelton. Back into the pocket, Garter Gordon. Going to Ben Donaldson. That is a very good kick downfield, getting plenty of meterage on it. Why is water wet? Says Duncan, that is a brilliant question. But I would say because if it wasn't wet, we wouldn't be able to drink it. Congratulations on the 30k subs. Where will it be by the end of the tournament? Still flipping hot here in France, says Jeff. You see, it's incredible how much the channel has grown over the last few years. And, I mean, we've been incredibly consistent as well. We've been here every single weekend that there are live streams available, or live matches available to do. We've been covering them on the channel. And now that the World Cup's here, we've got about 8 games per weekend, so it will certainly keep us busy. Now, deep inside of their own 22 here, Georgia, looking for the touchline. Very nice kick downfield. Thoughts on Blackadder over Fennell? It's a risk because if Blackadder does end up with another injury, it would be a big shame, but I would have thought that Samapeni Fennell would have been a great choice to bring in. But, yeah, he's pretty unfortunate. He played decently in that game up against Australia, got that one chance, played relatively well, and the All Blacks have decided to go against him. But I think that Scott Robinson would probably look at Samapeni Fennell over Tupova'i next year, perhaps. Yeah, take you in the ring. John, I'll probably 3 times your age. South Africa go the Aussie, says B. Goldberg. And 30k congrats, says Milan. Thank you very much. Now, plenty of room here for Modibadza. Just 40 metres out from the Georgian line. So they are still struggling to get out of their own half, which means that Australia, if they can get the turnover like Will Skelton has just been able to do, they are back under pressure. McWright tries the pass. Knock on from Samu Karevi. And we will be going back for the scrum. Is Nick White playing right now? He is not. He is going to be coming off the bench in this game. Translate to please, man, says Andreas. I think my 30 fit Australia will happen before half-time, says Brian. Also, hey, don't worry about us. English, we are used to not being liked to. Much universally, we can cope. Loving this commentary, though, says Akaris. Yeah, but Will Skelton just getting his hands on the ball. I think it was Ivanishvili, number 7 for Georgia, who wasn't quite able to have a couple forwards going over that breakdown to protect it for Georgia. Now we get to see another scrum, which is always very entertaining when Georgia are scrummaging because they've got a huge front row. And like someone said earlier on, they just have props for days. They could switch out about 5 of their top props and still have brilliant prop options. There is a reason so many of them end up playing in France. In those front rows, do you think Whitelock will hang his boots up at the end of the year? I think he's pretty close to it, Sam Whitelock. I think he's done a lot for the All Blacks, but I think he'll know that soon is the time to let that next generation come through. Although the big problem that they've got at the moment for the All Blacks is that next generation aren't really performing as of yet. 40 group stages, 4 quarters, 2 semis, playoff, and the World Cup final. So here's Monet Lagrange. Good kick downfield from Ben Donaldson again for the Wallabies. Eddie Jones constantly talking into his walkie-talkie, trying to make sure that the tactics are going well. Players to watch for Georgia, says Mr. Skits. I would go with David Navishvili. He is the number 15 and he has got a phenomenal try-scoring prowess when he gets the opportunity. Tatiana has said me as a player to watch out for in the Georgian lineup. I would probably also... Who would I go in the 4-pack? I mean, the likes of Abuladze, just with the scrummaging ability. Him versus Taniela Tupou is going to be a good battle, I would say, throughout this one. The game seems to have died a little bit for the past 5 minutes, says Brian. I think it's more the case of they've just taken a little bit longer after that drinks break to get back into the flow of things. Ball going high. Unlucky for Nwanganetawasi, does lose it out of his hands. So now Georgia have got the opportunity to counter-attack, and it will be in the hands of Ninashvili, the man who I just mentioned. Finds the pass on the outside. Space opening up here for Georgia. There is a man on the inside, but instead opting for the kick, looking for the corner. The ball's skidding forward, and Donaldson has to force it dead. Nice work there from Tabatsadze. Tell you what, Aussie almost got caught out there with that gap. Scrums won't help the Georgians anymore, says Stan Paulson. And nice to see Romanians and Georgians in the chat today. Says Wise One and speeding up, says Power Bite. Saying that maybe just a little bit too early there for, I think it's Akaki Tabudzadze at number 14. Oh, that's a knock on from Georgia, unfortunately. A bit scrappy there off the back. Got a guard said not able to hang on to it. He's disappointed. He didn't think he knocked it on. I wonder if that was the first or the second time that he knocked it on, that he was wondering that. And you're right, and the South in general is not doing good. The Under-20 World Cup was dominated by France, and Georgia need to try, says Robert Wood. And also we have Gadia Carter's join the Springboks. They have the same feeling. Not well liked go Aussies from South Africa. And tell Georgia this is rugby, not soccer. What, because they kicked the ball? I feel like that was a very good kick, though, and it almost led to the opportunity to score for the Georgians. It was just the fact that Ben Donaldson was in there, managing to cover it. Because I think Colin Betty was almost beaten for pace. 56% in favour of the Australians at the moment when we sit in the position stats, how Georgia get home games every year against island teams. They never tore the Pacific, says Chuck T. I mean, it's a good question. I know that this year with the Pacific Nations Cup, Japan had 3 home games in a row, yet everyone else had to travel for at least one of their contests. Australia trying to get themselves the advantage. Luke Pearce says, too much movement, we will go back. I'll have a good laugh at the Box do the same. Scotland, its previous results we have seen. Imagine 79-8. Box versus Scotland, says Stan. Tell you what, it would be certainly a shock to the system of the Rugby World Cup. I know that there are a lot of talks about who's going to be the leading try scorer at the end of this competition. We've already seen 5 individuals get themselves 2 tries, which is pretty incredible. 4 of which coming from the Irish side, and then the other coming from the All Blacks with Mark Talia. I wonder what Eddie is saying on his walkie-talkie. Says Monet Lagrange. I'm sure he's saying something along the lines of, this is working all right. I feel like he's a man of many words, but also few words at times. Like he'll be going, just keep it inside of their half, keep the pressure on. Don't allow the Georgians back into the game. Wish I had your pack. Awesome, says Akaris. Now Tate McDermott feeds the ball in. Not very straight, to be honest. Normally the hooker has to try and hook it back, but instead the prop, I think, almost ended up with that one from McDermott. That was a weird way of saying it. Jordan Pataia moves up to now 22 metres out from the Georgian line. Australia has been told to use it. Going back across to Fraser McWright. Georgia once again offside. They are trying to get there as soon as possible. South African Sevens are straight up a soccer match. Says Chronic, there's quite a bit of kicking that is involved. Argentina Sevens also uses quite a bit of the kicking aspect in the way that they play. Samu Karevi now taken down. Another advantage against the Georgians. To be careful with this discipline. They will go back for the penalty from around the 22. You talk too much, says Devon. Well, the benefit is, Devon, you can turn this live stream off and you don't have to listen to me anymore. We have got England as a great nation, perhaps the best on earth. However, tonight they will take their medicine, says Wise One. And yeah, I think the fact that that game is so close between Argentina and England, they actually want to go upstairs and check something here. Checking for a high tackle. Right, who is the culprit in this high tackle scenario? Now, I believe it was a tackle made on Tate McDermott after he took the quick tap, and I believe it was actually his opposite number. Here it comes. Oh, it's on the shoulder. It rode up slightly, but it won't be anything more than a penalty, I would think. All right, checking back in, H. So you're still going strong, tiredness hitting you yet? Not quite, but I feel like it will at some stage, maybe in the second half of this game, just before England versus Argentina takes place. I feel like that will be roughly when it starts to hit me. Thoughts on Tupavai's performance yesterday? Below average. For Tupavai, got the opportunity to go into that starting lineup, but just didn't quite make the most of it. And also we have got there, they're not since the best nation is France, says Romain. And the culprit's name ends with a Ashvili, although in this case it ends with a Z. And it was Lobsanidze. It looks like Donaldson will once again go for the 3 points here. Australia, just willing to take those points, keep their momentum flowing, rather than going for the corner. You have to wonder whether or not it will backfire, though, for them later on in this game if they aren't able to get that bonus point. Shouldn't even be a penalty. Hard up McDermott, says Jobo. And also, to be honest, I just love the game. I have played at an average standard with people from so many countries. I had so much fun. The standard of this commentary is excellent, says Akaris. And that Ireland scoreline was massive, says Username. Just a penalty for me, says Brian. Yeah, I would have been very disappointed if it went any higher than just the penalty. Ben Donaldson, though, another kick goes over. 21 points to 3 now in favour of the Australians. Don't want to switch off the live stream. What is the next game for Got, says Stan? So the next game after this will be taking place in 2.5 hours, and that is the match between England and Argentina. So that is certainly a game you don't want to miss, because that could be an absolutely electric one. Both sides, they're in an interesting patch, because I would say that Argentina, they're in form heading into it, and then England are out of form heading into that game. So it's the question of whether or not that momentum will completely shift. Normally live by the rule that if you are more than 2 scores ahead, you go for the corner, says Venster. Yeah, and they were already 15 points up, so it makes me a little bit confused that they were willing to go for the 3 once again. But Australia, they are going to end up with another penalty. This time Georgia pinged for offside once more. And that is one benefit that Australia have, is they've been able to take the 3, and then Georgia will give away a silly penalty straight after. That then means that Australia can continue to march their way down the field. We have got there England to win, says Robert. And also we have got there, and in the chat as well, who are the 18 people who thought Georgia would beat Australia, says Tony. Well, to be fair, in terms of the betting odds, that's not actually too bad. At the start of the game, for the odds, I believe Georgia came in as around $10 underdog. So if you work to the theory of maybe about 10 to 1, you're looking at around that 10% in favour of the Georgians. So maybe it's a little bit higher than some would have anticipated, but people were expecting Georgia to start that little bit better. Will Skelton, another carry from him. Must have pressed the wrong button, says Akaris. Now it is going to be kicked high. Mark Nwanganitawasi trying to line this one up. He's normally very handy under the high ball, although he might have just done his ankle. Didn't quite get that one right. There is an advantage now in favour of the Australians once more. McDermott, close to getting pushed into touch, but somehow keeps the ball alive. Carter Gordon now thinks about this cross kick. In fact, he is going to go for it mainly for the territory gain that they may be able to get inside of the 22, or in fact inside of the in-goal area. Now Georgia do have the goal line dropout. You're predicting South Africa to win 80-0, says Powerby, and TMO busy eating Kit Kat, so quiet, says Blues Nate, and first win for Eddie looming on the horizon, says a username. Kick long from David Navishvili, or Nanishvili I should say. Nwanganitawasi gives it off to Donaldson. Tom Hooper decides he wants to have a bit of a crash forward at the line. I believe that's one of his first carries in the first 33 minutes. Nice ball to McWright. Finds the offload away to Donaldson. That was fabulous work there from McDermott to free up the arm enough. Now Taniela Tupou, the Tongan Thor, goes off to Samu Karevi. The Wallabies look like they have found their next gear. Trying to score just before the half-time mark. Short ball from Taniela Tupou. Good shot coming in on Richie Arnold. McDermott sells the dummy, passes it straight into the hands of the Georgian number 5. I think he thought that McDermott was ready for it, but that was not the case. Kia ora, Hamish. Views on lower tier teams in the Rugby World Cup. Even FIFA expanding theirs to 32-48 teams. They get the honour of repping your country is huge, but how beneficial is it? Get thrashed, says BP. Now big run forward from the Georgians down the wing. Nice step on the inside from Makava. This is a good chance because they have still got him in support on the bottom side. Nawankanitawasi has to make the tackle. He's pulled his pants down as well in the process. Now, 10 metres out from the line, Georgia. And it looks like there's an injury here for one of the Australians. He does not look in a good way. I think that is Tate McDermott currently lying on his back. Australia have got the ball back here. And now they are going to give some medical attention to McDermott. He looks like he's in all sorts of bother. 20 is fine. Will be too many blowouts, says Chuck T. And also, can we get the Wallabies to show the ABs how to run the ball, please, says Jobo. Also, he took a double knock there from McDermott. He was knocked out. Unfortunately, I don't think he'll be able to continue this match, and he may not even be able to continue in the next contest that the Aussies have got either. And for anyone who was wondering about that, we have got a bit of an injury stoppage of Tate McDermott. Next game for the Australians is up against the Fijians. That will be on Monday at 3:45 a.m. New Zealand time. An absolutely awesome fixture taking place between those two sides. We get to see little prelims of it when the Fiji and Drua are in action throughout Super Rugby Pacific up against the Aussie teams. But this game in a World Cup is just going to be that little bit better. So we see there Tate McDermott. He got the knee to the head, and then he also got a knee of Dave Parecki to his head. So he took a double knock. Believe that they will be taking every precaution to make sure that McDermott is going to be all right. Wales are the next challenge for the Aussies, and then they have got Australia versus Portugal as their last game. They actually don't have any breaks. Normally you have got a game and then you've got a little 1 week spell. Australia actually have their 1 week spell before the quarterfinals, so you wonder whether or not that is actually beneficial or whether that could be slightly hurtful for the Australians. But looking through at Georgia's next 3 games, they have got Portugal in 14 days' time, so Georgia will not be playing next week. Then they have got Georgia versus Fiji on the 1st of October, and then Wales versus Georgia on the 8th of October. Now, these times are all in New Zealand time, so they will need slightly adjusted depending on whereabouts you are in the world. But we will be covering every single one of these games on the channel. So if you are new, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We have got there, sounds nasty, says Wise One. And mate, you're streaming or watching cable TV. So I am watching on Sky Sport now here in New Zealand. So it's a little bit slower compared to Sky on cable. He was knocked out cold, says Jasper. Yeah, hopefully he is going to be all right, as it did look like quite a nasty knock. Now, Wanganitawasi, the way that he was going into that challenge, he almost took a bit of a head knock there as well. It's illegal for Hamish to show any footage, so it's commentary only, says BP. True. Yeah, I'll get in trouble if I show anything. And who are the 2% that chose a draw, says okay. I mean, probably fair enough at the start of the game, to be fair. I think a lot of people thought this would be a relatively close fixture. It's just that Australia, to a lot of people's surprise, have actually shown up, which is fantastic, because in the last few games that we've seen of the Aussies, they've been able to make slow improvements throughout each of their fixtures. McDermott's still looking a little bit unsteady on his feet. He's going to have a bad headache tomorrow, I can tell you that. Portugal will need Cristiano Ronaldo to win against Australia. Says Chronic, looks like Jordan Petaia also has some sort of knee injury. In fact, it might just be a little bit more strapping on the boot. He should be fine to continue. We have got there, All Blacks haven't had a world-class prop since Owen Frank, says Lord the 7th. And Argentina will do to England exactly the same Fiji did. England rugby is not up to the standard at the moment, says Johan. All Blacks are missing Joe Moody's scrummaging, says Jobo. And which Sky Sport channel? 1, 2, 3 or 24? So for me, it is Sky Sport 1. 51 is the channel here in New Zealand. And I believe that every single game of the Rugby World Cup will all be shown on this exact channel as well. So a lot of excitement coming in the near future for this Rugby World Cup. Like I mentioned, 48 games. And now, after this one, we've only got 44 to go before we know who is the 2023 Rugby World Cup champions. So Nick White here has made his way on. That was for Tate McDermott. Currently, territory-wise, Australia with a heavy advantage, 69% in their favour. They are 15 metres out from their own line. Are the Australians better than the Scots? Says David Dempster. It's very hard to tell because Scotland didn't start the match up against Georgia well, but finished it phenomenally. Whereas in this game, Australia have started the match now, and we're still yet to know whether or not they will finish it to the same standard. But that is another penalty at scrum time in favour of the Australians. Scrummaging-wise, Carl Heyman, in my opinion, was the last world-class prop we had. Consistently in the black jersey, in my opinion. Frank's faded at the end, same as Joe Moody. Never seen Zark Heyman ever shoved backward. And it's live on Channel 9 here in Sydney, says Glenn Woods. So are they showing all the games, Glenn, in Australia, or only the Australian games that are happening? And yes, Australia better than Scott, says John. I hope he's okay, says Robert Wood. Now 4 minutes remaining in this first half. Australia now just inside of their own half. The line out throw looked wonky, but Bareki has actually managed to clean that up quite nicely for his side. Looked like it could have gone anywhere, but they were retreating drastically, Australia. Richie Arnold able to get his hands on the ball now. Bell on the halfway line. Will Skelton. Ankles taken out from underneath him by his opposite number. Now Nick White goes for the box kick. Ngawanganitawasi once again will be chasing after this one. Goes up for it. Hasn't been able to take it cleanly, but knocks it back in favour of the Aussies, but it bounces into the hands of the Georgians, and now Ninashvili kicks it downfield. Looking for height on that one. Nicely taken by Jordan Batai, who will put up the kick of his own. Nicely taken by Ninashvili at the back. Finds it off to it was Carver. Georgia, if they can score any sort of points here throughout the last 3 minutes of this half, they will be very happy indeed. And only Aussie far as I know, says Glenn Woods. Okay, so that'll be the... Hopefully they show like the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, even if the Aussies aren't there. Although by the looks of this performance, I'd say Australia will get themselves into those quarterfinals. Big bump off from Tom Hooper, driven towards the touchline, but still in the field of play. White goes across to Mick Wright. No tackle made on Samu Karevi by Abuladze. Now Nick White kicks it in behind, does go into touch, just bounces in the field of play. And now Georgia will have themselves the line out. Australia giving Georgia a scrum lesson, says Dirk, although the big bonus that they have got is the extra 60 kgs that the Aussies are packing. So don't get me wrong, Georgia are brilliant when it comes to their scrums, but they're normally brilliant when it comes to scrums that are relatively even. Whereas the Aussies at the moment, they've packed out their forwards. They've got Angus Bell, Tini Alatupo, two massive blokes in the front row. And then you got the power and the speed, or the big pushing of Will Skelton just a little bit behind them. Georgia has been told to use it once. Well, it's kicked downfield. That one decent clearing, kick down towards the halfway line. Only Wallabies games in grand final from memory will be shown Channel 9 free to air, says BP. And 82-8 is how Ireland want to continue on, says Honey. In the next game, it is going to be up against the Tongans, so that will be a nice test for them. Going over the top, Samu Karevi is waiting for it at the back. 40 metres out from the line. Nick White goes back across to Rob Valentini, who runs hard at the line also. And the penalty goes the way of Georgia, diving off his feet there. I believe it was Richie Arnold, who wasn't able to support his body weight. His favourites, Aussie favourites to go on from here or not, they are indeed. We have got there De Les Bleus. Too strong right now, certainly up there as favourites. And it does really seem like 3 out of the 4 pools are deaf in their own ways. Yet to be seen what Italy will do in Pool A. Says username. Yeah, it will be Italy versus the All Blacks. That is the big test in Pool A. Because the winner of that game, theoretically, I believe, will go through. And New Zealand certainly won't want to lose that one. And very best party, says Mark Roberts. And South Africa versus Scotland prediction, says Connor. We did actually do a video about 10 hours ago on the channel, our preview, where we did give our score prediction near the end of that one of exactly how we thought that match would go. Dave Pareki goes across to Ngawanganitawasi. Got decent distance on that. Both sides opting not to go for the touchline now. I believe Australia are doing it purposely for the sake of trying to wear down Georgia, but I don't think Georgia realise that that's what Australia are doing. In this case, Carter Gordon taking it nicely. That will be a penalty for tackling the man in the air. And he's going to be marched back 10 as well for him back chatting. And I think he was ripped to his feet by his teammate, who was not very happy with him. What's the general reaction of the New Zealand public after last night's result, says username. I haven't really found out too much, to be honest. I haven't really been on social media other than YouTube, of course, for the last about 24 hours. We've been doing a lot of video editing, a lot of setting up for these live streams, a lot of prep, and then also getting like 2 hours sleep in between. So, yeah, I assume that they aren't too happy about it, but I'd assume that it's also the case of they just know that Italy is the game that they have to make sure they win. If anyhow Italy wins against New Zealand, this World Cup is over for the All Blacks. Is there still an outside chance? There's an outside chance, but it would be extremely slim for them to go through, and they'd have to rely on France being beaten or Italy being beaten by Uruguay, as well as maybe another upset along the way. Now, rolling more here, Dave Parecki. The ball at the back, dedication right there, says username. Now, big bump off from Samu Kerevi trying to get through. Australia, 41 minutes into this half. They want one last crack at the opposition try line before they call it a day. Now, Richie Arnold. Another good carry from him. A little bit of feet going out from underneath. Gurgadze. White giving it to Tong and Thor. Georgia's defence overall. They haven't allowed too many extra metres for Aussie once they're inside of the 22. It's just when that line break comes is when it's dangerous. That little bit of an offload game that Australia are opting to use. Nick White passes out wide to Samu Kerevi. Looked like a very flat pass out into his hands, but they are now only 7 metres out from the line. No hands is the call. Playing the halfback as well, and it's going to be the penalty against the number 11. He is the man who gave away the penalty for taking a player out in the air. So he is going to the bin. Or is he? Okay, I believe it is actually the number 11. Murebadze will be going off the field for 10 minutes now. 23 or 21-3, not bad. Beware of the moustache, it's Nick White. Says Blues Nate, and also, hello Mr. 11, the cattle are being disobedient again, says Power Boy. And I wonder how bot fans feel knowing that Scotland has the best South African player in the world, says Jobo. It'll be interesting, won't it? Because Dawn van der Merwe, he is going to be going head-to-head with Kurtley Arendse rather than the other way around. It could have initially been Chisholm and Colby taking on the winger, Dawn van der Merwe. So maybe they see something in that combination that would work better with Arendse. Now, I doubt Dawn van der Merwe is the best. I will see Georgia or any family members joining in the commentary in future matches. Says Coding. I know that George was initially going to be joining me for the England-Argentina game, but then did say that he wasn't going to be able to make it. The only problem really is the fact that all of these games are in the middle of the night, or at least a majority of them are, so it makes it very tricky to get people on the streams. Number 11 is a liability, yikes. Says Finton, and the best South African is not Van der Merwe, says AJS, and Duan, I would never make the Bok team. Says John and Springboks 37 to the 23 of Scotland. Now half-time in this one. 21 points to 3. A great start to the match by the Australians. Duan was surplus to requirements. Says Cited. And I was the best South African to see the Marks, Colby, Eben, Kurtley or Moody. And the commentary is excellent. I can visualise the game, says Patricia there as well. You reckon Ethan Blackadder will get some game time, or will he add anything? And will he add anything to the AB's pack? I like to think he'd add a little bit of grit or a little bit of mongrel into that four-back, because at the moment it seems like they're all going out there just to have a good time rather than actually get into the breakdowns. We have got their best winger at this time, Damien Pinot, in my opinion, says Kenowek, and Duan as a defensive weakness, says Bell Bite in there as well. Shop like a billionaire Timo. Isn't that one that's similar to Wish, how it's like a whole heap of random stuff from all around the world? It takes a long time to get places. Or they're showing Subway. I think I've seen... What have I seen? I've seen a Subway ad. I've seen a Domino's ad. I think I've also seen... I think there was a Pizza Hut one earlier on. I think I got an Uber Eats one. They just try and make you hungry while watching the rugby. This might not be the best South African, but is Rob Herring the most solid South African player? He's fantastic. Wait, he might not be a South African. Rob Herring, the most solid South African player, he's fantastic. Are you sure Rob Herring is the one you are thinking of username? In that case, Ethan got the call. Apparently, Ethan Blackadder is going to be added into that AB side. which is interesting because Samapeni Finau I would have thought was just around the corner. The best South African player is in the Springboks team, says Dylan. And I was going to say ABs, we're really missing a scavenger, forager type flanker, too many ball runners in my opinion. Says BP, which was pretty surprising because they had 3 sevens. And then with the fact that Sam Cane got taken out, yes, they only had 2 sevens, but they still should have been able to get into those breakdowns. But yeah, he got called in for injury cover for Sam Cane and Pinot. That allowed Talia 2 tries. That guy says Chuck T. Perhaps this is the time Wallabies is leading in halftime this year, says Ed Vogel. Or not quite. They were leading in the Bledisloe Cup match. I think they had about a 14-point lead. And they did end up blowing it in the end. But Heron can't throw a line out. Says Finton and perhaps we have got there. The current All Blacks team look like they're too busy thinking about golf and get into the breakdown, says Lord 7th. And Ethan Black had to play 8 or 6, prefer 8. And Artie Savia 7, Scott Barrett at 6. How about the crowd in the World Cup? Average ticket price for these matches. I'm not sure about the ticket price, but it seems like they're relatively full for a majority of the matches that have taken place. Have some biltong ham. It's a spot better than pizza, says Stan. I don't think there's anywhere I can get biltong locally other than like a 3-hour drive, which, yeah, might be a bit far away just for now. What I mean is, talking about the best South African players, hearing I wouldn't be considered the best, but I reckon he's the most solid / consistent. Says username, an 80-point win for the Springboks against Scotland will not happen. It would be a shock for World Rugby if that happened, says Mornay Lagrange. I'd argue even like a 30-point win for the Springboks would be quite a bit of a shock. And that one, I like to think that Scotland will show up and try and put it on a fight. And I know that a lot of Springbok supporters will say their side should be dominant, but, 30 points is still a massive margin up against the top side. And maybe that is just what the Springboks could be able to do because of the form that they are in. Can we see a breakout for the Wallabies come second half? Says Stan, there is a chance that we may see the Wallabies get themselves around that 50-point mark in this game if they do start to go for the corner a little bit more. Something I didn't like about the Wallabies game plan was the fact that they kicked for the corner, that they kicked for the posts rather than going for the corner, because they already had a 15-point lead. They didn't need to extend it by the extra 3 points. I feel like that may end up costing them if they aren't able to capitalise and get themselves the bonus point. Are you planning to stream every game, Amos? Yeah, that is the plan. At this stage, we have been able to do so. We're up to our 4th live stream in a row. I've got there with Narawa coaches. Went with the back rower rather than a back replacement. True. We have got there make your own dude. It's not difficult, says Stan. Which is that for? I'm not sure which that one is for. Overall. And he was, he consistently throws poor lineouts. Hamish, do you live in the north or the South Island? South Island is more populated because volcanoes on the other one, says Wise One. I am on the South Island. Is it more populated? I thought we had less population than the North Island because they've got Auckland and everything that does have quite a bit of a population. And Bri Dunn, Brandy flowing back again. Go Georgia, go, says Red Hull. In there as well. And Blackadder is a great flanker. And the Moulder Squire, a scavenging wrecker with great bravery and raw talent, says Kerno Wickham. What is sleep, says Ed. That is a great question. I am running off 2 hours of sleep. Tomorrow I might get 5 hours if I'm lucky before we do another all-nighter. At this stage, I don't think I'm working Monday, but I think I'm going to be editing most of Monday too. Hey, all right, I'm sure, says Wise One. Amoni Narawa, unlucky due to back injuries. Must have been... he played half for Bay of Plenty in the 2021-22 series. I'll make your own biltong. I mean, what do you need for it? You probably need some sort of dryer or what do they use to make the biltong? It's like a dehydrator, is it? I don't own a dehydrator. Do you think Argentina will win over England, says Ed Vogel? I think that Argentina have got a real shot in their next game up against the English, and I hope that it is a relatively close fixture and not just a runaway for either of the sides. I want a game to go down to the wire, which, to be honest, in this Rugby World Cup, France versus All Blacks, we almost got that up until the last about 15 minutes. And then from there, it started getting a little bit more one-sided. So I would like to think that it will be the closest game of the weekend, or at least very close to it. Yes, dehydrate raw beef, says Burning Lash. And Baldrick has a cunning plan. And also we have good there. I think the choir anthems, while unique and cool, in my opinion, in some places are off key. And for lack of a better word, echoey, so they sound weird for people trying to sing along to them. Says BP, yeah, that seems to be not a very popular choice from them to go with the choirs rather than just playing the songs. Amoni, it's pretty much Luke Jacobson in the Rugby World Cup 2019. They sent him home due to unlucky injury. Spices meat and cool dry hanging space. You know, that sounds like, you said it's better than pizza. Maybe, but pizza is a lot easier to get. And it's 30 minutes away for the nearest pizza place, but it would still be a lot easier than making my own biltong. They are just showing the Stan Sport commentary team. Michael Hooper as a part of that. One and the same, surely, says Eric J. We have got there, what do you think? What do we think of Finau versus Blackadder? A lot of people are upset, says Powerboy. I can understand why there is a little bit of upset there due to the fact that Sama Benny Finau extremely unlucky to miss out on the initial World Cup naming squad. And I think the reason they've gone with Ethan Blackadder is maybe because they will look to use him as a 7 rather than going for him as a 6. I think that could be the main thing that impacts it. See, Khaleesi made a mess of Luke Jacobson. Damn, Garcia on fire, says Blues Nate. And England lead 19 points to 5 versus Argentina. I believe it will be a 19-6 after tonight. So here's a wise one. Lazy ass, says Stan. I mean, to be fair, in our defence, if we're going to be up for about 50 hours and sleeping for about 6 hours, the last thing we want to do is be drying meat. You know, I feel like there are much easier options to be able to make food than having to wait for our meat to dry, because that will probably be time that we don't get to sleep. So it would make sense to get something easier. Test win, says Wise One, for that 19-5 at the moment. Watch out for Argentina, very low key. Squad can win games. Fly your biltong from Namibia, best in the world. Like the Box South African fan, says B. Goldberg. And there as well. Second half should be just about underway. I know that normally for Australian games there is a little bit longer of a halftime break than some of the other matches around the world, but by the time this game ends, we will have about an hour or so before the next game does get underway. In fact, it may be a little bit longer than that. And Hamish, you're an absolute trooper. Rugby time's not working in your favour, says Bystander. Yeah, the Northern Hemisphere time zone, probably the worst one for us here in New Zealand in terms of the times that teams are being announced as well as the times that the games are happening, but we work with it. And well, the idea is prep the beef, hang it, and go to sleep, says Burning Lash. And Michael Checker's 2022 Rugby League World Cup and now Rugby World Cup 2023, coaching both codes, which is the coolest stadium in the Rugby World Cup 2023. I missed the previous 2 games. I'd still go with the Stade de France, mainly because of the way that the light show, although we didn't really get to see much of a light show. It's actually the stadium behind me. I've seen light shows there before. Really expected more from Georgia, to be honest. Very disappointing. Says Safari Kiwi. And we have got there, read the book, now eat the pie, says Eric J. Your pre-week sleep schedule is smart. Good job, says Wise One. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, because I actually ended up doing quite a bit of work throughout this last week as well. I actually poured concrete on Friday afternoon, and then we went to sleep briefly so that we could wake up to then do the All Blacks versus France game, because we had a bit of prep for that. I'm so weird with the sleep at the moment, but the fact that we're still awake for these live streams, I feel like, is the main thing. And I'm still slightly competent, so that's a good start. The English team have stopped drinking Bud Light, are overdue for a win. And also, I feel I've seen the Marseille Stadium looking neat. Here's Ed Vogel. I feel like this All Blacks team panics under pressure. I miss the days we would be down by less than a try with 5 minutes to go, then play 20 phases and score. 2013 Ireland comes to mind. Day has said, come on, Georgia, in the chat. And also, I agree, Lord, says Sam Wilson in there as well. Who did score by Australia? So the 2 try scorers so far have been Mark Nawanga-Netawasi and then also Jordan Pataya. The rest of the points have come from the 3-pointers that Australia have opted to go for. I'd like to think that they'll go for the corner a little bit more in the second half, though. Perhaps they are working on the theory, though, that Georgia are the most dangerous throughout that first 40 minutes. And then now that they get into the second 40, that is when they can start to make their mark, increase their points differential in a group that will be extremely important to have a good one, because every point will be crucial in Pool C. Fiji are going to be playing Wales just a little bit later on. It is in about 26 hours time that game will be taking place. But the other games that we have got coming up, ladies and gentlemen, in the near future, is going to be, we are here at the moment. Then we've got England versus Argentina a little bit later on tonight. Japan versus Chile, South Africa versus Scotland, and Wales versus Fiji, the last game of the weekend that we are covering. But then next weekend, we are back into more of the rugby action. It will be France versus Uruguay, New Zealand versus Namibia, Samoa. They will have their first game after having a bye in week number 1. They will be going head-to-head with Chile. Wales versus Portugal, which is Portugal's first game. Ireland versus Tonga, South Africa versus Romania, Australia, Fiji, and England versus Japan. Those are the fixtures that are coming up. My wife accidentally brought Bud Light home for me. Didn't waste it though, I drank it in the closet. Says Brian, and make your biltong during the week. Then it will be ready for next weekend. Problem solved, says Julia. Instead of biltong, you could always get a bottle of sausage, the spiral one, says Glenn Woods. I was watching a bit of the game on the TV. Boring. It's much better on this platform. Thanks, mate, says Jose. And also VB tastes good, says Blues Nate. Is McDermott back? He is not back at this stage. I didn't actually see him in the changing sheds, mainly because we had a lot of ads here in New Zealand, but I see that Nick White will be continuing in this match. I would say that McDermott is out for a couple weeks, mainly because of the extent of that head knock. It didn't look flashy, got knocked out, and then he took another knock on the head afterwards as well. You see there, Eddie Jones, his coaching staff making their way back out into position, ready to go for the second half of rugby. But it was a relatively long halftime break. I mentioned how the Aussies, they do normally have that little bit of extra time. You see there, the Georgian number 11, Moribadze, he has got himself the yellow card right at the end of that first half. So Georgia only playing with the 14 men for the first about 8 or so minutes, I would say, of the second 40. But we are back underway, ladies and gentlemen. Georgia will be kicking off with Matt Carver. Kicking off high and Australia. Nicely taken by Nick White. I believe that Georgia, if they keep going for this kicking game of going back and forth, Australia are going to win it every day of the week. Because Australia, they've got a couple men with big boots, and they've also got a couple men who are very good with their placement. Point made just there, Carter Gordon, almost able to get himself the 50-22. Ball stays in the field of play, Ben Donaldson. Now we'll go for a kick of his own. Inside of the 22, once again taken by Georgia. It is their fullback, Ninishvili. And that one has now gone into touch. And Australia now have got themselves the line out about 45 metres out from their line. Who's going to score the next try, says Ed. I would say that, interesting. Samu Karevi is actually now off the field. That is for Larakai Foketi. I don't know if that is an injury-based substitution or whether something else, maybe just trying to rest him, but no. I would say that it's something to do with an injury for Samu Karevi. Kicked him high by Nick White. 50-22 attempted, and 50-22 was almost successful. I think Georgia have almost been able to keep that ball in the field of play, though, and now they'll look to charge it forward. Nice pass on the outside to Ninishvili. Now nicely taken at the back. My Nwanganetawasi goes off to Ben Donaldson, looking for the 50-22. I can't see anybody beating the Springboks all day. South Africa to win the World Cup, says Neil Garner. And hit that like button and subscribe, everyone. Cheers for tuning in, says Sebastian. So anyone who is new, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We got plenty more of the Rugby World Cup, including a game just around the corner between England as well as Argentina. But we are just seeing the replay. Brilliant bit of work there from the Georgian 15, Ninishvili, to be able to keep that one just inside of the field. Just rejoined, but I feel Eddie must be starting to feel warm. I think he deserves a bit of rugby love, says Red Hole. I think the big thing for him is to get those 2 more tries Because if they can get that, Australia, they will have themselves the bonus point. Will sit them at the top of Pool C more than likely at the end of round number 1. But Georgia now in possession, sitting just inside of the Aussie territory. I believe it was Marab Shirakadze. Had his hands on the ball there. The Georgian captain, Will Skelton, gets into the breakdown and once again is able to turn it over. Carter Gordon going for the 50-22. Might have got a bit too much of that and it will roll dead. So they'll go right back to where he kicked it from. You watch any of Squidge Rugby's Rugby World Cup team previews. Maybe believe every team has a chance to win. Portugal and Chile vids were really good. True underdog stories. Says BP. And there as well. Sadly, I haven't really had too much of a chance to watch any YouTube over the last, I'd say about a month. I can't remember the last time that I got to sit down and actually watch YouTube without like doing something at the same time. I feel like I'm very far behind at the moment. This World Cup is going to be a kick fest, says Power Bite. And also, hey, Stranger Sebastian, Merry Christmas, saying now then later, says Blues Nate. Now will be the scrum feed for the Georgians. It is Christmas for rugby fans, brother, big love. It's good to see you, mate. Says Sebastian. No more movement is the call from Luke Pearce. Georgia. The man disadvantage in this back line, so they might have a bit of a gap on one side. That is Wheeling, and the penalty goes the way of the Georgians this time. Too much movement from the Australians. Dave Parecki having a bit of a laugh about it. It's Georgian scrum fighting back. Says Power Bite, and I believe it was the experienced veteran Nika Abuladze, or in fact, they've got a number 18 on the field now, by the sounds of it. Making one of their changes already. France, New Zealand, or Ireland can beat the Springboks, but I'm optimistic they won't. Says Wise Ones there. Got there, the Rugby World Cup 2023. The only place to watch every match is on Stan Sport. It's also on Sky for every match. DSTV, I think, also has it. So I guess the only place in Australia, perhaps, that has every single match. Blockbuster match, England versus Argentina. Argentina by 7, says Monet Lagrange. Who do the Kiwi lads think are going to win the Rugby World Cup, says Neil. So my prediction in my original video was South Africa to end up winning in the final up against New Zealand, which now it seems like New Zealand might be in a bit of trouble, but they should still be able to make their way out of the group stage. It is going to be available now off the back. Big run forward for Georgia. And with a man disadvantage, if they can score themselves a try now, it might be the confidence that they need. Neneshvili ripped to the ground by Marika Kurumbetti. He's been quiet throughout this one. We have got there, I predict a Springbok versus France final in favour of South Africa, says Herman. Squitch's video on Wallabies was too good. I really broke down Eddie's tactic and what he might bring to the Rugby World Cup. And Brett has said South Africans so arrogant. This will be a very hard World Cup to win. By the way, I don't watch Squidge anymore. Also arrogant and opinionated in terms of popular opinion. Seldom anything original from him, says Brett. But yeah, I think a lot of people can agree this World Cup is wide open. There are a lot of teams that have got a great opportunity of being able to win it. We may not even see... The thing is, we may not even see one of those top 4 in the world rankings win this World Cup. There's a chance that one of those ones on the other side of the draw, whether that's an Argentina or England, Australia, someone could be a little bit of a dark horse, get their way through all the way to the final and then perhaps cause that upset. Now, new penalty advantage in favour of Georgia, trying to rip that ball out. And I think there was actually a second penalty advantage against Tom Hooper, so he might get himself 10 minutes in the naughty chair as well. Now, nice run forward from the skipper at 12. Shatakadze. Still playing under advantage now. Amukashvili having that next run wide. Can our pass? Georgia for the corner, and it's the try. Nwanga Nitawasi is not allowed to lead with the knees the way that he just did, so they may have to have a look at that one, but it will be the try for the number 7 in this one. I believe, if I'm not wrong, is it Ivanishvili? I think it's supposed to be Ivanishvili, but I think he's shaved his head. Yeah, see, that's dangerous from Nwanga Nitawasi. They'll have to have a look at that because you cannot lead in the way that he just did. Are you wearing the suit tomorrow for the South Africa game? I more than likely will have the suit out for tomorrow's matches And we have got the I Get You Hamish, so much to watch, so little time. Grateful for all you do for the streaming this commentary. I've got Stan, but turn their commentary down and listen to yours. Says BP there. And also thanks again, Hamish, for being there for everyone. I hope there are some great stories from the minnow teams in this World Cup. 514 watching. Smash that bloody like button, Earthlings. Says GB there as well. Their try from Power Bite, but that is the first try of the match from Georgia. The comeback has begun, and with a man disadvantage. I've got their watch out for Fiji in the semis, says Neil Gamer. Too political. Don't be arrogant, guys. We are looking good, but not invincible, says David Dempster. Yeah, I think the big thing is just making sure that if your side do have a bad week, if at any stage that happens, that's only an if, you still get behind them. I know that Marnie Libok, he's been through a lot over the last few games because he started off playing not too well. He wasn't kicking well. Everyone was saying, get him out of the team. We don't want him anymore. Then he has one good game and everyone's like, he's the best thing since sliced bread. We've got to keep him in there. But got to make sure that even if your players are out of form, you're still backing them because at the end of the day, they're the side. They're the ones that have been chosen. There was a full pass. Says Chuck Dan, great try. Says Brian there, I can't wait for the match between Argentina and England to start. And also all nations have scored at least one try so far. Good to see some fight from every game, or from every side, says Sebastian there. Now the kick was unsuccessful, so the score remains 21 points to 8. Marika Kurumbetti taking that kick. Now Nick White goes across to Carter Gordon, deep with the way that Australia are trying to attack. Nwanga Nilawasi finds the offload away to Jordan Pattaya. That one did travel slightly forward. And we have got their best biltong will be from King's Meat, Delhi and South Africa. They have a great rugby mix also, says Rudy DeToy. I agree, Squidge's politics, in my opinion, doesn't mean all his analysis is bad. He has some valid points when it comes to rugby, so I just chew on the meat, spit out the bones, says BP. And also the hundreds from Glenn Woods. Sounds like we are going to see a few more changes. In fact, the number 11, Moribadze, will make his way back out onto the field. They'll actually probably say, oi mate, just go off the field for a bit longer. We were playing better without you on here. Still, relatively big margin between the two teams. Looks like all the weaker teams are losing with 8, says Stephen. Also, we have got their best built. Oh no, I read the best biltong one, didn't I? Angus Bell off the field, so Blake Scoop does make his way out there. And then I believe on the other side, they have kept Daniela Tupou just for a little bit longer. I love Squidgy's interesting analysis. Points out things others miss, says Burning Lash. Now, 30 minutes remaining. Australia sitting with the 2 tries. I mentioned earlier on, it's hurting them the fact that they didn't go for that corner when they could have gone for it rather than the 3. If they don't walk away from this game with a bonus point, they'll be thoroughly disappointed. Georgia now looking to attack once more. This time it is Matkava. Good kicking behind for Georgia. Ben Donaldson has to try and create an opportunity. Marika Kurumbetti gets into the breakdown. Not allow Georgia to get that ball back forward. Forward pass. Says Blues Nate. And Love Squidge says Timid. And also we will see England emerge as a second tier team in World Rugby. This time the penalty goes the way of Georgia. And momentum has shifted now. In the second 40 minutes, normally it is Georgia who are starting to take their foot off the gas. But in this case, it seems to be that the Wallabies are starting to struggle a little bit more. Just adding it up, 13 points difference. 2 tries for the Georgians would give them the lead in this match. Both have to be converted. Squidge isn't perfect, but his video is entertaining, says Brian in there as well. But Blake Scoop straight in through the side. That will frustrate Eddie Jones, seeing as they just took Angus Bell off the field. They seem relatively fired up now as well. I agree on the forward pass, says Chuck T. So number 21 for Georgia to replace Lobasanidze, the name that I couldn't say to save myself. See that now? It is going to be Aprasidze. I can handle that name. 29 minutes remaining. Mamukashvili asking whether or not Australia were closing the gap. Now, nice drive forward. Here come the Georgians. Will Skelton trying to get through the middle with that rolling maul, but doesn't look like he's quite going to be able to get... Oh, he's actually just gone straight through the middle. He's going to be on the ball, and Australia get themselves a scrum feed. Brilliant work from the skipper. Didn't look like he had much of a chance of being able to get there, and then all of a sudden just popped through the middle like a baby being born. It's not quite how childbirth works. It's fascinating that almost no one predicts South Africa Island final. Says Burning Lash. And also we've got there going into load shedding. What a nightmare, South Africa, says B. Goldberg. And also we've got there, it's fascinating that... Oh no, I read that one, didn't I? And South Africa versus Ireland possible final is a possibility, yes. Says Wise One. So far we've seen 650 metres made by the Australians. But they've only scored 2 tries. That's the tricky part. We've got there, always strikes me as ironic that my go-to rugby entertainment is a bloody Kiwi, says David. It's kind of intriguing because we have got quite a few South Africans who are in that same boat. Like, I get told all the time, like, from certain people, they're like, I don't like Kiwis, but you'll do. You know, we don't mind you. So I take that as quite a big compliment overall. And, you know, I'm always going to try and be as impartial as physically possible throughout these games as well. So I guess you'll get to hear it straight down the middle. The score between England and Argentina will be very close. It certainly will be. And I like Squidge, says Wise One. And Skelton collapsed that, says Mark. I think because he pierced straight through, I think because it was a one-on-one, he was able to collapse it, if that makes sense. And thoughts on Dupont versus Smith. I felt like Smith outplayed him. Unfortunately, the forwards could have matched Smith's effort, says Lord Severs. Yeah, I felt Aaron Smith didn't play too badly. It just seemed to be that the All Blacks were too keen to kick that ball away at inopportune times. Can't be in the final if he can't get past the quarters, says Herman. And also same here in Australia, Dempster, says JB. Oh, sorry, says GB. Now ball going in for the scrum. Nick White leaves it for Valentini to go off the back. It's a good tackle made on him by Matkava. Now White back into the pocket to Carter Gordon. Wallabies, the youngest World Cup squad in 2023. Argentina are good, but they sometimes make the dumbest mistakes, says John. And watching from Norway, thanks for the commentary. Only other way to follow is it at the pub. There are too many beers at the pub after last night, says Anthony. Well, it is absolutely awesome to have you here for this one. I believe it will be evening in Norway if I have got that correct. We have got there in the chat, Squidge Rugby still struggle to comprehend to a rugby with curves. Obviously never played rugby, says the Blues Nate. Although some people do prefer that analysing side of things rather than playing it, don't they? Oh, Georgia was offside by about 15 metres there. So he did get sent back. The advantage is over. Taken just inside of his 22 there for Ninishvili. Takes another mark. Did you manage to take that quick nap, says Darren? Depends on when we were talking. After the last live stream, or actually before the Italy versus Namibia, I managed about 2 hours sleep. But that's the extent of my sleep that I've had throughout the last about 24 or so hours. Let's kick downfield. Now another boot from Ninishvili. He's had a lot of the ball. He's been kicking from inside of his 22 all day. But he hasn't been doing too badly in terms of the distance that he has been able to get. Second favourite rugby team, says John. It's a great question. I normally try and be completely impartial. I would say, like, see, that's the thing. I probably have a side that I prefer commentating for. But then that's very hard to choose as well because I love commentating most of the sides from the Rugby World Cup. And we love Kiwis, mates. It's our neighbours that make us itchy at times, says Red. And Portugal versus Georgia in a final, says the human chapter. They are going to be playing each other in the group stage. Another mark taken, this time by the number 11 who got himself into trouble a bit earlier on, but now looking to create the Georgian counter-attack right up the middle here. It's the youngster Ninashvili. He had the man down on the right. He didn't see him once. And now giving the ball away to Taniela Tupou. Offloads over the top to Donaldson in Australia. It's a brutal game. And they'll get themselves the try after Georgia did all the hard work of creating the chance. One bad pass And that is going to be the end of it. Australia now move up to 26 points, 3 tries on the board. You're doing marvellous work, especially for someone with eyesight problems. South Africa, so glad for Kiwi. Says Goldberg, it made us something animals do when they reproduce, says Christo there. And also 2 Cents Rugby and Straight to Sports, Mark and Tony, says Blues Nate. Also, we have got there, trying good point, Amish, some of the best coaches, never even played at a high level of the sport they coached, says BP. Great run. Unfortunately, great run from a Georgian player, Ninashvili, who then went for his offload and it went straight into the hands of Taniela Tupou, who I was worried was going to blow something in his leg again because he's had many leg injuries over the last little while, but he found the pass away to Ben Donaldson, who was able to finish the job. And the Australians now, they need one more try to get that bonus point, which they are eagerly chasing in this matchup against the Georgian. There's an Irish pub here in Sofia. They always show the rugby, but too many Kiwis, says David Dempster. And also, unlucky boys, congrats Eddie Jones on this first win on you, mate. Well done, says Blues Nate. Eddie Jones, he did say he was saving everything for the Rugby World Cup. Question is whether or not they will be able to back that up, though, with future performances. Yes, they might be walking away with a victory here up against the Georgians, but they still need to beat Fiji. They still need to beat Wales if they want a good chance of making it through to that next stage of the Rugby World Cup. What a terrible mistake by Georgia, shows the inexperience. It just shows the fact that there is a lack of attacking nature, unfortunately, in that backline at times. They do normally heavily rely on their forwards. From your own view, how is Australia playing? I think they've been a lot better in this game. Once again, every game that they've played, they've almost had a little bit more of an improvement. And, you know, it's what they would have wanted. They started this match well. I like the fact that they've been able to get themselves 3 tries now. They need one more, though. Walk away with that bonus point. Imagine if you had an app that showed where on the field the ball is during the commentary, says Albert. We have tried one of those before, and it didn't work, unfortunately. Mainly because I watch on Sky Go. It means that there's too much of a delay, so it would show the try where it was happening, and then I would commentate it about a minute later. But yeah, we did give it a go, and people hated it because it wasn't synced up. He's the worst best coach. We respect him, says Christo there. Now moving up to the halfway line. Georgia in possession again, loose ball. The last thing that they want, a lot of pressure starting to form here on this Georgian side. It is a knock-on, I believe, from Mudibaz Budzi. Are they going to be able to get the ball? No, they don't. I'm pretty sure the Scots are watching this nervously. Says David Dempster for Fiji. Eva Fiji, Tosa Viti Toso. And OMG tomorrow, Scotland versus South Africa. I know South Africa is going to win the World Cup. South Africa, says Laura. And there, Arasi is the world's best coach, says Albert. And also England stumbles over themselves. Can't trust them, says Chuck T. And is Eddie the coach with the most nations managed at Rugby World Cups? Got Japan, England, and Australia in it. He's got to be up there, doesn't he? In terms of, like, head coach, that is, isn't it? It'd be... got to be close. I'm trying to think of someone like a Jamie Joseph or someone along those lines, but I don't think he's done that many. He's normally been the assistant in there as well. Look at how frustrating was that from Ninashvili. Yeah, unfortunately just chose the wrong time to look for that offload. And just didn't work out. Unfortunately for them, looks like a couple more changes are being made for the Georgians. We must be about 3 minutes away from the drinks break. Rassi Erasmus, best coach by far, says Rudy DeToy. And Bullabro, the Kiwi lad, says Fiji Islander. Welcome in, mate. I'm sure you are excited for the Fiji match just around the corner when they do play Wales in about 24 hours' time. Going to be an absolutely awesome one. I'm watching it on my TV, says Laura there. Now Australia, 1 try away from the bonus point to sit them at the top of Pool C. Even if they don't get the bonus point, there's a chance they do still stay at the top. But of course, 1 more try would be absolutely ideal for the Wallabies to get their World Cup underway with a bit of a bang. I'm half Scot, so I'll stand for the flower. But after that, it's all South Africa, says David. And that was a huge statement from Ireland to the world, says Darren. I think the big question on a lot of people's mind is, are Ireland going to be able to continue that momentum next week when they play Tonga and then the week after when they play South Africa? So there's plenty of questions that need to be answered. Carter Gordon pass on the outside. Wasi slap back inwards by Georgia, and they will be able to just get this ball back, although the Aussies putting up a fight in the breakdown. Nervous, mate, quite nervous to be honest. Says Fiji Islander. Georgia only 1 metre out from their line. In fact, only about half a metre, if that. Damien Valimza and Willie LaRue. Says Albert. For the South African supporters here, what happens if Labot gets injured? Who's the backup? 5'8". Yeah, so they'll probably go with Valimza. I know that there's been talks that Faf de Klerk could also be an option there, but of course, there's a chance that they may bring someone else into the squad, to be fair. If Andre Pollard still isn't match fit, they may look at one of the other young 10s from the URC, and the Wanganita Wasi taking it nicely under the high ball. Now Nick White goes off to Will Scout and looping around. White sees the space in behind, so we'll just kick that one towards the touchline. Gets it to drift out 10 metres from the Georgian line, and they've decided to take it quickly. Willie LaRue says Rudy. I thought this game was going to be close, says Edwin in the chat. As well, Pollard is on standby and are ready to go, says Albert. Also, we have got there, I'm from Ireland and lived in South Africa and now the UK, says Laura. And Ninashvili, he has touched the ball so many times for Georgia, but every time that he's touched it, apart from maybe one or two, he has had to just kick it back downfield towards the Australians. So territory-wise, they have been struggling big time. If Blackadder performs well, do you start him or Frizzell? If we make the quarters, says Law's 7th, I would go with Shannon Frizzell personally, just because we have seen him play well throughout his recent games. I know that they might consider Blackadder as that other option. Hey, Battle with the Reef. Wait, 7th of October. That looks like Polo was one of the men fighting on that card. A few other Australians might be able to help me out. And also, I think I saw Tamalolo. Is he going to be doing a boxing match at some stage in the near future? Of course, the UFC taking place today. Israel Adesanya taking on Sean Strickland. Got a few other Kiwis and Aussies on that card. Tai Tuivasa going to be taking on Alexander Volkov in the co-main event. Also, Justin Tuffer in action. It looks like now Ninishvili will be taken off the field. And he's been extremely busy. Seems like the most of your viewers are South Africans. Like a man says Jaco Vandenberg in Australia. Go, you've got this, says Laura there. And in Townsville, says John Smith. Let's go. And Liquor Man Liquor, says Christo in the chat. But anyone who is new to the channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. We have recently brought up the 30,000 subscribers. If you do want to help us out, hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more Rugby World Cup commentary coming in the near future, including the game just around the corner between England and Argentina. We will be covering that one on the channel as well. Would have been nice to see Dureka's fight tonight, says Wise One, although it was a little bit of a tricky scenario because if he was to take that fight up against Adesanya, he wouldn't have had a full training camp. And I believe he wanted to make sure that he was fully ready for the challenge ahead of him. Keen for Fiji versus Wales, says John Smith. It's going to be a good game. Taking place in about 25 hours' time. Now, Nick White crossed to Will Skelton. Good run 4 from him, but he is dragged down by Gurgadze. Now stepping from Vunivalu. We hardly have seen Marika Kurambiri Sabat, so this is the time that we may start to see him in action. Daniela Tupou, good carry 4 from him. Nick White gets it out the back quickly. Goes to Will Skelton again. Tackled this time by Chesvili. Now, Vunivalu, good low tackle made by the Georgian. Their defence has been good at times throughout this game, although they have missed a few tackles in crucial moments, which has hurt them. Big driving tackle. Tom Hooper sent back with Marika Kurumbeti, decides to have a bit of a pick and go rather than being out on his wing. Will Skelton now, 10 metres out from the line. Nick White goes off into the hands of, I believe that is going to be Ponefa Masili. Or is it? Who was that? Or is that Rob Leota? No, it's Rob Leota, the slightly bigger version of Ponefa Masili. Now, Carter Gordon looking for the cross kick. Soliase Vunivalu just runs out of space. Little bit too close to the touchline. We know that he is able to take those from his NRL days. It's nice listening to commentary by someone who's not partial to any team. Well done, but I've noticed they have a bit of a soft spot for Fiji. Says Johan, I think it's only a little bit of a soft spot because I've seen like the Fijian grow throughout the competition. So I guess it's easy to praise the Fijians with how far that they have come in most recent times, whereas a lot of the other teams that we talk about have already been strong for so long, if that makes sense. They expected more from Marika, says AJS. Yeah, he's been extremely quiet out on that left wing. Okay, Eddie Jones must be smiling brightly at this moment, says Mornay, although he knows that his job's not done yet. They still need one more try from themselves. Welcome, the best there is available, says Stan. And in fairness, Tobias was better and a better kicker, although Labok is quality, very good and excellent player, or exciting player, says Powerbite. And Vamos Fiji, says a Blues, Nate. So South Africa win this year. Does that make this Bok coaching team the best ever? Says Burning Lash. It's a good question. I know that at least 2 of the coaching staff are leaving, though, aren't they? I think they're going to other international teams, or at least going overseas. I think Jacques is going to Ireland. If I'm not wrong, I don't think he's in the international coaching side, but I think he's helping coach one of the Irish teams in the URC. What happened? Is he all right, says Laura. So Marika Korombeti just getting a little bit of strapping on his head. He's going to be fine. Just a bit of a cut on the top of the forehead. Got a bit of a smile on his dial. Like I've said, throughout the next 8 weeks, if you can avoid injury throughout the whole competition, you will be very happy. Okay, says Laura. Now it's a line-out throw, though, for the Georgians. They are only just out from their own try line. Good low tackle made by the Aussies again. Rolling this ball back will be Abrazid. Or Abrazid. I don't quite say that correctly. A good cover from Georgia there on the wing. Goes into touch, and now Australia, another line out. And Tossa Fiji. Says Fiji Islander there. The second half has taken a little bit longer than the first half. I'll be honest, I thought that the first half absolutely flew by. This game now feels a little bit more methodical. It's as if we're right on the verge of either Aussie breaking through or maybe Georgia getting themselves their second try throughout this game. How did you get all right from ALR? Kudos, mate, says Stan. I've read a lot of chat over the last 3 years, so I've got pretty much all the hyphenated, or not the hyphenated, but all the shortened ones sorted out relatively well. Although there are still some messages that I read and I have no idea what I've just read. And Jacques is going to Leinster. Says Mornay is a half-time, says Tyler. It is not. So we're currently sitting 64 minutes through this game. Rob Valentini passes back across the Lalakai for Kitty rush defence there. And it's another penalty to Georgia. Apasitse, the man who was able to rush up there. 20 points difference. So Georgia, theoretically, if they can score 2 tries, they will find themselves with a bonus point. In this case, it's shot. Says Fiji Islanders score not bad for the Aussie. Noah Georgia is ranked 11th. And Aussie ranked 9th. Says Stone Cold, and Eddie only has 1 upset game per World Cup. He plans for it. It's Japan versus South Africa, New Zealand versus England. Wonder what big game I've said he's planning for this time round. Well, I believe all throughout the group stage, Australia are their favourites, which would mean the quarterfinals, where they either play up against the English, Argentina, Samoa, or Japan seem the most likely knock-on from Fiji, from Georgia. In that case, they almost were able to make their way straight through. Are you doing a live stream for South Africa and Scotland? I'm half South African and Scottish, and I hope so. We certainly are. We will be starting that one nice and early. Got a big, long build-up planned for that matchup. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Test Rugby is not Super Rugby. I don't understand why ABs don't reconfigure their forwards. Kane as a bench and back player, and Artie Savia should play flank. Yes, says Albert. I thought there was a bit of rain falling there for a second, but it was actually just the sweat dripping off the brow of the Georgian. Now, nicely stolen by Georgia at line-out time, but they have slapped it straight into touch, so now Australia will get a repeat line-out. That is a child dressed in an England kit. Although, whether or not that will be a happy child at the end of the night will heavily depend on what happens in this Argentina versus England game just around the corner. But first of all, Georgia's still looking to attack. Big tackle there from Marika Korombeti. Ball pops out, And the penalty goes the way of Australia, not releasing the ball. This is where they need to kick for the corner, although I did see there in the background, I think it was Sheshvili has gone down with some sort of injury. Same with Will Skelton. He ended up slipping over a player at line-out time. He was through. Then with that short ball from 12, says Fiji Islander. And check you out with the Spanish lingo. Blues Nate says Fiji Islander, and Kotobedi is bleeding. He is indeed. Got a bit of a cut on the head. As this boy who is speaking a New Zealander, I don't know how to recognise accents. So I am from New Zealand, yes. Currently sitting 5:40 a.m. here in New Zealand. Still got one more game just around the corner. Yeah, it's a big cut on the ear, or just above the ear, of Marika Korombiti. Jalagonia has been taken off the field. And Pollard is match fit, but not match fit at the time of selecting the squad. Coaches did not include players who are not already fit without injury, says Burning Lash. And I guess it's a good way to do it in a certain regard, although with the fact that the Springboks haven't played yet and Pollard is now match fit, as you said, maybe they cut him out of the team just a bit too early. But at the time, maybe they didn't know the extent of his injury and how long it was going to take. Now the rolling ball. Now Fraser McRae, he lost his footing there, got back up to his feet. I believe he wasn't held, so he is able to do so. Now around the side of the breakdown, Will Skelton, the Aussies 2 metres off a bonus point here in the first game of their Rugby World Cup, offloaded by Taniela Tupou. There is another advantage for Georgia being offside. That has happened way too often throughout this game, and they will have to work on that discipline as we move further through the Rugby World Cup. Suliasi Vunivalu tries to have the pierce around the left-hand side with the pick and go. Now Rob Bellatini looks like he's going to have himself a go around the side of the breakdown, uses that leg power, new advantage coming from Luke Pearce. Now Carter Gordon looking for the wide cutout pass. It's wide open for Ben Donaldson. He'll get his second try of the match, and he is now the 6th player to get 2 tries in the opening 4 games of the Rugby World Cup. Who do you think will be man of the World Cup? Says Rudy. I actually predicted Malcolm Marx as the player of the competition. So, of course, that will rely on South Africa going far in this Rugby World Cup. And thank you, Laura. He went for a South African fellow, I presume, says Stan. And great thing about the Rugby World Cup being in France is that I enjoy a few bevies while watching. Says Fiji Islander, and goodbye Georgia, says Chuck T. And that is now the bonus point for the Australians. You missed out the Transvaal boy. South African's Afrikaans farmer, says B. Goldberg. And awesome crowds, massive numbers turning up for these matches, says Blues Nate. And a lot of excitement on the face of some of these Wallabies youngsters. Like I mentioned earlier on, they are the youngest team in this Rugby World Cup. Eddie Jonesy isn't just looking at this World Cup, he's looking at the next one, 2027. So difficult for me to see how the Wallabies are struggling against this Tier 2 team, says Jose. And Ben Donaldson as player of the match. No, says Eddie's got to be right up there. He's had a very solid game. Ben Donaldson. Taniela Tupou hasn't looked too bad either, but I think they'd give it to the man who has got the 2 tries to his name. And Mark Nwanganitawasi also probably should have an honourable mention. We see Tate McDermott is back on the bench talking to Samu Karevi, so that is a good sign for him. Although I still believe that he will have a concussion and won't be able to continue. I've got there no need to tell someone specifically where you live. Leave it out, says Blues Nate. And also I reckon Olivon for France for the player of the Rugby World Cup and bonus point at last. They made hard work of it. Australia can grow into the tournament, says Chuck T. And also morning Hamish, brother, how are you mate? Here all cool, doing very well. Birdie V now another opportunity. Suliasi Vunivalu tries to break through the replacement halfbacks. Tackle, great job commentating. Need some coffee, bro, says Chuck T. And also South Africa, says Salim in the chat as well. Now Zayn Ungor, he is on the field for Taniela Tupou. Looks like Nick White is down in back play. Now that is not good news because that would be both halfbacks injured for the Australians in this game if he isn't able to continue this match. Now Georgia They would need quite a few more tries to get themselves within the 7 points. Big shot coming in from Rob Leota. I see that Matcave has gone off the field. Absa Hanze has made his way onto the field, and he's just given up the ball straight away, but they are going back for the original advantage. You look tired, mate, says BDV. Well, I have been up for, I think, about 26 hours with 2 hours sleep in between, helping out with the energy. But we've only got one more game tonight, then we've got maybe a few hours until after that we go to bed. Waking up hopefully at a decent hour to do Japan versus Chile, followed by Scotland versus South Africa, and also the match between Fiji and Wales. And guys, 114 likes, smash that like button, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe. Says Birdie V. I think they were looking for foul play there, but they aren't able to find any. And what Eddie is doing is very clever for the 2027 World Cup. France did the same peak this year by starting in 2015 from scratch. And also, OMG, that's bad, mate, says Laura. Although that is just what will happen throughout the Rugby World Cup. I'll be sleeping a little bit more during the week to try and catch up alongside working during the week so that I can afford to do the weekend live streams. And then from there, we power through. We've only got 7 or 8 weeks of this Rugby World Cup, which is a massive shame because I wish it was a lot longer that we were in the international rugby side of things. But yeah, it's going to be an awesome competition. Only 44 matches to go throughout the whole comp. 9 minutes remaining. I see that Rob Leota is on the field. Tom Hooper has made the transition into the locking duo with Langy Gleeson being at 15. I should also mention that there have been 13 penalties against the Georgians in this match, which is way too many for them, thanks to the Kiwi Lads commentary. Up to 30k, let's go, says Blues Nate. And also Southgate deserves it. Vicar Maguire, says Chuck T. The best biltong is from Bluff Meat Market in Durban, says Jose. Like they've said, with the heat, players are losing about 2 or 3, maybe even up to 5 kgs of water weight. So over the next few days, they have to try and put that back on. It's 2:46 p.m. in Argentina now. And time says Rian at the moment, 71 minutes, 50 seconds. Georgia now just getting that scrum out. Did have a bit of a stoppage there while the players were resting, but now the back line looking very strong. And it's going to be the number 11 out wide. One more. Oh, he's put it down. The chance there for Tabutsatsi, but he hasn't been able to hang on to it. The coach is absolutely livid. How has he not been able to score that try? Mark Nawanganitawasi knocks it out of his hands. What a tackle to stop the try, says Chuck T. And you can see the frustration on the face of Tabutsatsi. You read Typo Knees very well, says Burning Lash. And FFS Georgia says Fiji Islander. And there's come on the Wallabies. I need 2 more tries because I've bet. 2 more tries in the next 6 minutes. It's going to be relatively tight. That is for sure. But brilliant work from Nawanganitawasi. That is a perfect example of a side that aren't giving up till the final whistle. We've talked about Australia needing to put together a 40-minute performance in one half and then following it up with another 40-minute performance in the second. Normally it's only 40 throughout the 80. That was brilliant work from Mark Nawanganitawasi. Now come on, Marky. Says Blues did a nice job, says Laura, and come on, Wallabies. And I think this is the end score, says Stan. Now Australia trying to get the advantage off the scrum. Not going to be able to do so. Langy Gleeson, brilliant low tackle made on him by the replacement halfback for Georgia, Carter Gordon. A decent amount of distance on that. Drifts just in a touch. Brilliant kick downfield. And that will go down towards the halfway line. Australia, their kicking game has been solid throughout the 74 minutes so far. Like they said, from Carter Gordon, about 60 metres on the fly he got with that kick. Certainly getting all of it. Now Georgia, a lack of try scoring from them does seem like it may continue a little bit throughout the early stages of this Rugby World Cup. Their next game, they are going to be going head to head. Oh, that was not straight. But, Luke Pearce did see it. Crazy how one season can change. Remember when Noah Lolesio and Tom Wright was the anticipated Golden Boy, says Ed Vogel. He's here to get that try, says Rudy, and tough luck, Georgia. Can you please, or can you do a live stream for South Africa versus Scotland, please? We will be going live for that game. We are doing every match on round number 1 of the Rugby World Cup. And maybe White is just acting, says Christo. I mean, he has got a track record in the acting department, doesn't he? And they look like Fiji's line out from 3 weeks ago, says Fiji Islander. Gents, all the other teams have easy games. The bot got Scotland. Can't underestimate them. New Zealand lost to France, says Birdie V. I assume you're talking Pool B, as the other sides have easy games. I would say England versus Argentina, certainly a tight-knit fixture. Fiji versus the Welsh, I think, will also be strong. Hello from Argentina, go the Pumas, says Claudio, and of course we will be picking up that coverage as soon as we can, which is going to be at about 6:45 in the morning. So that is in 1 hour, and in fact, it's in 55 minutes time. Mark Nawanga-Nitawasi, good run, big bump off there. Down the wing, getting rid of the number 11. Now Nick White ends up falling over. A lot of pressure being put on by him. Argentina by 7 later. World Cup keep getting better every 4 years. Now Fraser McWright plays half. Rush defence there from Georgia. I believe there was a knock-on the ground from Australia. We'll go back for another scrum. And Australia won't mind this too much. It is going to use up a bit more time left on the clock. They won't use a huge amount of energy throughout doing so, although they wouldn't mind getting themselves maybe one more try and increasing that points differential by just that little bit more of a margin. 5 minutes left, no, says Laura. Finally, some good news for the Wallabies, says Ed. And only 35, says Richard. And there as well. But yes, someone asked earlier on how I felt Australia would match up with Scotland. Scotland, they managed to get themselves 33 points against the Georgians. Aussie sitting here with 35, so they might be relatively even if they do find themselves going head-to-head at any stage throughout this Rugby World Cup. I think Argentina is the best team on that side of the draw, says Burning Lash. And then Georgian looks strong, though, says Richard in the chat as well. All fed in now, Georgia, inside of their 22. A lot of their replacements in the back line now starting to come together. Low tackle missed by Marika Kurumbeti, but they are all dragged down. Moribadze. Knock on there from, unfortunately, it is Tabutzadze again. The man who did drop the ball down the other end of the field. His headgear looks like it's a bit roughed up. It looks like he's been through quite a battle, though the edge to Australia, says Richard. And everyone really underestimated Georgia, says Ed there. That's the thing, if Georgia can get off to a good start in the match, they've proved that they can be relatively even with a lot of good sides. But the problem is, if they don't end up getting that good start and they start to trail, they just never quite have the ability of getting back into the match. Irish thanks yet again. Kiwi stranded in Dubai without TV matches is painful, says Peter Wiles. No worries at all. And we are going to be back for that England versus Argentina game just around the corner as well, so be sure to check out that one. 2 minutes to go in this World Cup opener for these two sides. Nice step there in the midfield. Knock on almost was coming, but they have been able to hang on to that. Tabutzadze, he goes almost straight through, tries to find the offload, and it's kicked into touch by Georgia. Just little moments, little mistakes are hurting them, but Tabutzadze has been a lot more involved in the last little while. I wish they know exactly the condition of his recovery. I took the most conservative route with respect to taking injured players in the squad. This is why he is standby. GRP says Burning Lash, and chances of South Africa versus Georgia, not very likely at the moment, I would say. And also we have got there Georgia, says Christo, and not bloody easy, says Richard, and respect with the Georgian names. Tell you what, I am struggling big time with them. I feel like I'm mispronouncing about half of their team, but hopefully throughout this World Cup we will start to get a little bit more rhythm going with them. Georgia is who we thought they were. No big upsets in the tournament, says Chuck T. Now taking the quick tap, he wasn't quite on the mark though. The Irish thrash Romania, now they are in the final. The Springboks, these northern commentators are so arrogant, says Jose there. Mum and Dad not joining World Cup games. Hamish says Ed, more than likely not a huge amount of them, mainly because these games are taking place. Like it's currently 5:53 a.m. New Zealand time. So a lot of these games are in the middle of the night. So it will be just me in terms of this end. But of course we will have you guys in the chat. Can Georgia please go? Because I'm actually thought that they had 8. Says Laura, although now 5 metres out from the line, they have got an opportunity to try and cut down on some of that points differential with only 60 seconds now remaining. The crowd starting to get behind them. Thrown to the back, nicely taken. Offload, a pop pass up to the captain. Didn't quite get over the line. Shirakadze, another advantage. Georgia over the line. They will get themselves one last moment in this game. It's one of the replacement props. I believe it is number 18. I haven't quite seen his back yet, but I believe that is Beka Gigashvili. And that will be his first try of the Rugby World Cup. Georgia did well. And also we have got the big V8 show in Tolian. Says, did I miss one from the big V8 show? Whereabouts is the big V8 show? I don't see him in there. And also we've got there, you're a bit screwed with this World Cup, says Rudy. Yeah, time zone wise, not easy for this one. And what says Richard? Yeah, the try for Georgia, Beka Giashvili. They decided to take the kick quickly and it did go over, which means I believe we still have time for one last play in this contest. Georgia, if they can get one more try here, I know that it's pretty optimistic, but if they can get one more, that is going to cause problems for the Australians' points differential. Yes, they still have that bonus point in play, but they won't want to have it cut down too much more than it already is. Nicely taken inside of the 22 by the skipper. Or sorry, not the skipper, the number 8. This one, Georgia inside of their 22, looking to have a few more runs perhaps. Aprasidze. Giving it off now. Big shot coming in on Muribadze. Again, short pass. Gizhavishvili. The Lucid replacement. He's got a long name, that is for sure. Good tackle made by Ludokai Fukiti. Australia trying to get this ball back, but at the moment Georgia just aren't quite giving it up, and they are only 5 metres out from their own line, so having a bit of a risk here. Trying to play it from inside of their own territory. Look for the kick in behind. The Wallabies end up back with the ball, and now they have given Australia the perfect opportunity to have one last attack. Ben Donaldson goes across to Carter Gordon. Numbers on the outside. Sells the dummy. Didn't get the pass away. Donaldson couldn't hang on to it. It will be the knock on. And that is the end of the game, ladies and gentlemen. Australia get themselves their first victory under head coach Eddie Jones. 35 points to 15, and they will sit at the top of Pool C with 5 points on the board. Points difference might be important, says Brian. It certainly could be. We have got there many countries, most rugby unions use their political and social influence to stop rugby league from being popular back in the day. I love your work, mate. Sleep time soon, says John Smith. Very true, although we do still have the next game taking place, which is between England and Argentina. I'm looking forward to seeing how that one goes. To anyone who is new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to tune in for that live stream. As like I mentioned, taking place in only 45 minutes time. It could be a wipeout of Southern Hemisphere sides with a France versus Ireland final. Certainly possible. An awesome stream, brother. Thank you. Says Birdie V. We have also got the Australia doesn't get the bonus point now, says the big V8 show. I believe they keep it. I think for the Rugby World Cup, it is 4 tries gets you the bonus point rather than being 3 tries ahead of your opposition. Great call, H. Much appreciated. Thanks, says Glenn Woods. Appreciate it, mate, says Evil Rusty in there as well. And thanks for the commentary. I try a quick doze before the next game, says username. Although, to be fair, with the fact that it's only about 45 minutes till we go live, I think it might not quite be enough time to be able to sleep. So more than likely, we'll do some editing that I was going to do after this live stream, or the next live stream, sorry, so that does save that little bit more time. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this live stream, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Australia having 1,053 metres made throughout this game. Georgia having to make 158 tackles, only missing the 20, which was the same amount as Australia missed with the 74 tackles that they were able to have. Well done, Kiwi lad, says Dylan. Thank you very much. And rooting for Argentina, says Duckin. And yes, Georgia, says Christo. And there as well. Yeah, nonetheless, thank you all very much for tuning in. Next live stream just around the corner, taking place. Also, I should mention for these two sides in the near future, Australia and Georgia. If you're wondering who they are playing next week, Australia have got their game up against the Fijians. That is going to be at 3:45 a.m. and Georgia do not have a game next week. That is going to be their rest one. But the other game that's taken part in Pool C for that week is Wales versus Portugal. And of course, we're going to get to see Wales and Fiji both in action tomorrow morning, New Zealand time. We will be live for that game as well. Thanks, Hamish, says Brian. And thank you, bro. a great job with the channel. Thank you very much, Chuck. And that was a great comment. She says AJS. And put the noodles on. Hamish says Blues Nate. And thanks for today again, Hamish. Appreciate your hard work. Says BP. But thank you all very much for tuning in. And I will see you all for England versus Argentina, just taking place in 45 minutes time. We will see you all for the next.